When you start getting into wearing historical fashion regularly, you also end up thinking a lot about underwear and bust support. Throughout my journey wearing historical fashion every day, I've thought about historical underwear way too much. Because in a lot of centuries, it is the foundation of a garment and is kind of important for hygiene reasons and structure and support and many other things. Historical underwear, of course, doesn't look like a lot of our underwear today. Many people on the internet have presented wonderful information on undergarments from various centuries, from the corsets of the Victorian era to the stays of the Georgian period to the pair of bodies of the 1600s. But as I've been wearing and making a lot of earlier period clothing lately, including ancient Greek clothing in particular, it got me thinking about the undergarments of the ancient Greek people, and more specifically, what did they do for bust support? Now, many cultures in the past have gone without any bust support. For instance, from my research of my ancestral indigenous Volga Tatar clothing, it seems that no bust support was worn under our garments. I don't know what this experience would have been like for my ancestors historically because unfortunately I can't go back and ask them. I really wish I could for so many reasons. But it did lead me to consider whether or not the ancient Greek people had an option for bust support, and in general what their underwear was like, because they certainly weren't wearing Victorian corsetry or something. This led me down a little research rabbit hole about what I'm going to call, for the purpose of this video, the ancient Greek bra, which is actually called strophion, and I might totally be butchering this pronunciation. My apologies in advance, as I definitely don't speak ancient Greek. I thought it'd be fun to share my findings with you all, and also see if we can recreate the strophion for everyday wear. So the first thing about the strophion is that it isn't certain whether or not these were worn by regular people, or only by someone in the upper class, or only for specific occasions. The Met, for instance, states under either garments, in this case referring to the chiton or the peplos, a woman might have worn a soft band, known as a strophion, around the midsection of the body, which could be interpreted as the bust of the body. Notice the use of the words might have. This is due to gaps in information, which I also ran across in my research. For instance, many early ancient Greek statues depict no undergarments worn, as in people in a state of undress, or what can be interpreted as without underwear due to, let's just say, the sheerness of some of the outer garments, like chitons and peplos, and what cannot be seen underneath. But then you get Book 14 of Homer's Iliad, where Homer refers to Aphrodite's embroidered girdle, or kestos hemos, in my attempt to say ancient Greek words. Homer says she loosed from her bosom the curiously embroidered girdle, into which all her charms had been wrought. Very poetic. There's actually quite a bit of conversation around the translation of embroidered girdle, as girdles generally go around the body like a wide belt. So then why the mention of the bosom? Then you get a terracotta statue of Aphrodite in the exhibit Ancient Cyprus Cultures in Dialogue, where she appears to be fastening or loosening some type of bust support. Though it should be mentioned that Aphrodite displayed in iconography with a strophion is not a particularly common occurrence, even though this specific terracotta statue was a popular one during its time. So then sometimes when you reach a dead end about a specific culture's clothing, the next best place to look is the clothing of a nearby culture that isn't the same culture. So naturally, I started to look a bit into ancient Roman underclothing. After all, the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans had interactions and cultural exchanges, often tragic ones, but interactions nonetheless. And my research ended up pointing towards an undergarment worn by the ancient Romans called the strophium. A wonderful depiction of this garment is in a very famous mosaic called officially the Coronation of the Winner, but it's often just referred to as the Bikini Girls mosaic, which dates back to the 4th century CE. In the mosaic, the ancient Romans wearing bra-like wraps are not unlike the type described as being worn by Aphrodite and depicted in the ancient Greek terracotta statue of her. So even though my research cannot confirm that absolutely the ancient Greek strophion was worn by anyone needing bust support, it does seem that at least some individuals were wearing them. Even if we look at bras today, some people wear them and some people don't. Sometimes, of course, this isn't a choice and rather due to necessity, but I just make this point to express that variety exists in modern times, so it doesn't surprise me that variety would also exist historically. So this is what I dug up in my amateur research going down one of my rabbit holes at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I don't just like to research things, I want to make them and wear them and see what it may have actually been like for people historically. I love experimental archaeology, if you can't already tell by the other videos on my channel and the fact that I wear historical clothing every day. I want an immersive experience. So I went ahead and sewed the actual piece of fabric yesterday that I need for this. I basically just cut a big strip of unbleached linen with one side on the selve edge just to save myself some work. I made it too wide initially, so I had to cut it down a little bit. And then I hand sewed the other 3 sides so that it wouldn't unravel. And now we are going to try wrapping it, and I'm going to let you all know how it is. And this is all going to be done in an extremely internet appropriate way. So if you're here for something else, don't bother watching further. So my beautiful model today is Julie here. And she's going to be trying on the strophion, and there isn't really any information online specifically about how this was twisted or wrapped. What I could find is that perhaps it may have been wrapped just a few times over, and then it usually would be fastened by this thing called a fibulae, which are basically the early safety pins. And they existed during ancient Greek times, and they would have been used to actually secure like the tops of chitons. I usually just add some stitches to mine and sew them because I tend to just wear them in the permanent state, and I'm not taking this fabric and refashioning it into something else really easily or using it as a blanket. It doesn't really need a multi-purpose for me, so I just go ahead and stitch it. But in ancient Greek times, generally these were secured with these fibulae, which are early safety pins. And I don't have any of them, so I'm using regular safety pins because that's the next best thing. And so I thought that it would be likely that the wrap would also be fastened by these fibulae because that sounds, I don't know, just very sensible since they existed during the time. There is a user on Reddit that actually recreated the ancient Greek strophium by wrapping it and twisting it over in different ways and then knotting it in the front, and it looks really beautiful. I put a link to that person's recreation in the description box if you want to see it. So I'm going to try to maybe do something like that, in addition to just wrapping it a few times and seeing if that also ends up looking okay. I'm just going to experiment a little bit and see if something works well. And then once I have something that looks good and I'm happy with, I'm going to actually try it on myself and see if it feels supportive. And yeah, just the experimental archaeology part, because unfortunately Julie here cannot talk. So she can't really tell me how she feels about the strophion being on her. Okay, I'm sorry, Julie. I know you can talk. You're a real woman, I know. I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to upset you like that. Okay, Julie, are you ready? Yes. Great. Okay, let's get started. I'm gonna start it by, I guess, under the arm here, going in. And I want to pull it really tight. Put a safety pin right under the arm there, kind of create like an anchor point. Okay, that's holding well. The bottom does not look tight at all, so I think I'm gonna also take this and sort of tighten it as well at the bottom and get it so that way it feels a bit more secure and supportive on both the top and the bottom. Maybe I made this fabric a little bit too wide as well, I don't know. So I've secured it now at the side, at the top, and the sort of bottom part. And now I'm just gonna start by, I guess, just wrapping it really tightly. Oop, Julie just shrank a little. Okay, sorry, Julie. This is quite intense. Okay. Ooh, this is fun. Okay, all right. Let's see. Did that work? Yeah, that kind of works. Nice. I don't know how secure it is. Fortunately, Julie does not want to tell me. She can't. I feel very sorry if any of you are named Julie. I'm saying your name a lot in this video. I need to find one more safety pin. Safety pins, where are, oh, there's a bunch, nice. Maybe like right under there too, to kind of create the under bust support. So I've used, I think, 6 safety pins now. All right, so this is what we've got, dear Julie. And it doesn't look amazing, but I think it will work. And also because when it will be actually on my body, I'll be able to like really tighten it and lift things and move things around. It's kind of hard on a firm dress form. So yeah, I'm going to try this on and see if it actually feels like a bra or if it feels like it offers any kind of bust support. I'll be back in just a little bit. So in the end, this is what I have. Definitely looks like it's a bra or like maybe more of a bandeau or something like this. Now, regarding the way I wrapped it, I did the same thing that I did for Julie, so I started to go around, but then I also had to fold the fabric in half because I realized it was just way too wide on my body, which I kind of suspected anyways, so I just folded it in half lengthwise. And I started just by safety pinning it here and over here somewhere. And then I started to wrap the fabric around me And I actually twisted it a little bit as I was wrapping it to create a little bit more support. And I also went in and grabbed and lifted everything up because that's important. Also, I'm trying this over a shift for, privacy reasons, but normally this would be done just directly on the body. Regarding how it actually feels on, weirdly enough, I feel it's a little bit hard to breathe, which has not been my experience even wearing corsets for like 3 years or more than 3 years every day. So yeah, that's really interesting that I'm finding this a little bit challenging to breathe in. It also does feel supportive, but I have a small bust, so I don't know if this would feel supportive for someone with a larger bust. So yeah, my experience with this is going to, of course, be very limited and subjective, and only going to be within the realm of my own body type. So I've got my own limitations with regards to being able to explain to you all what this is actually like for me. I also do feel somewhat supported, but it's not just like upward lift support, it also feels like a bit of compression, which I think is different than with wearing stays, where you mostly get that upward lift support, because, with this I'm just wrapping and twisting and trying to get everything in place, but I'm not actually having any kind of structure underneath that is helping to give any kind of lift. And here it is in the back, and as you can see, I could not quite pin it to the back here because my arms are, not capable of doing that, so I kind of pinned it at the side instead. That's why you get this excess fabric over here somewhere right here. But normally, I guess you'd have someone there to help you, maybe a friend or someone you live with, or some ancient Greek women had maids and such that would help them get dressed. So yeah, I had to do this on my own, which made it a little bit challenging. Doing the jump test, it feels like everything is staying in place, so that's good. Didn't think I would be doing a workout in today's video, but okay. That seems to be good. Things feel like they're staying in place, so that's great. Kind of like a sports bra. Even though this isn't like the most amazing solution for bust support, I am kind of fairly impressed with it. It's simple, it's accessible, and it takes very little time to put on, which is great. But I like this. I think it works to the degree that it works, and it doesn't feel uncomfortable. But again, this is my own limited experience having a smaller bust, and I don't know what it would be like for people with larger busts. I'm glad that I did this experiment and tried it out. And at some point, I think I'm gonna actually give this a go and wear it for the whole day under a keten and see how it feels, because maybe I'll actually end up really liking it. I'm also curious too if it would like fall off, because I feel like would it slip at some point? I don't really know, that's the thing. I don't think it would slip. It seems pretty secure, so that's good. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed doing this experiment along with me. I never thought I would be saying goodbye to you all in a video in this state, but here I am. The internet is weird. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in 2 weeks for another video.